is in crisis. And people are looking for hope and answers. Thai PBS World is there with you with the best minds of the day. Join us on Thai PBS World tonight, every weekdays at 7 p.m. Thai PBS World, we bring Thailand to the world.
สวัสดีค่ะ and good evening. Welcome to our 7 o'clock news, Thai PBS World Tonight. I am Natha Gomulwatin.
And good evening, I'm Thep Chai Yong. Tonight we'll begin with politics, even though there isn't much that is interesting that's going on, but still interesting anyway.
Yes, so much going on in Thailand.
That's right. So for several days, the Thai media were full of speculation about the so-called national unity government. Even though the speculation has been repeatedly shot down by many people, it has yet to go away completely. The speculation was triggered by a sudden re-emergence of Kun Ying Puchaman Damapong, a former wife of ex-Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, when she was granted a rare audience with His Majesty the King last week. She was there in her capacity as Vice Chairwoman of Thaicom Foundation to donate a mobile medical unit intended for Sirirat Hospital. Political observers believe that her presence at this particular juncture has sent a strong political message. The next day after that, many key figures of Pheu Thai, the main opposition party, resigned en masse from their positions, paving the way for an election of a new leadership. It is a well-known secret that through Puchaman, former Prime Minister Thaksin still calls the shots in the Pheu Thai party. Thaksin has been in self-exile since he was toppled in a military coup d'etat in 2006. But the former Prime Minister still continues to make his presence felt through the political party, which has been openly hostile toward the current military-backed Prayut government. Puchaman's sudden reappearance is widely interpreted as a signal that the real power behind Pheu Thai party is ready to compromise with the powers that be. The last straw is believed to be the escalating student-led protest against not only the Prayut government, but also the monarchy. Until most recently, Pheu Thai was seen as having worked hand in glove with the anti-government protesters. The conspicuous presence of a large number of members of the so-called Red Shirt movement at the mass rally at Sanam Luang last Saturday confirmed the belief that the anti-government protest was no longer a purely student-led activity. Worse still, under outgoing leadership, Pheu Thai is also seen as having played second fiddle to Khao Klai party. The much younger political party, which is a reincarnation of the now defunct Future Forward Party, has been openly supportive of the anti-government protesters and their demand for a reform of the monarchy. Puchaman and, by extension, members of the Shinawatra family certainly does not want to be seen as being part of an anti-monarchy movement. The family still has a huge business empire in the country to protect, and it's certainly not wise for them to be seen as being behind a move to by the move that is hostile to one of the country's most revered institutions. What is most likely to happen next is the emergence of a new leadership of Pheu Thai that will be more compromising, or at least less hostile to the powers that be. The party is having a general assembly tomorrow to elect a new executive board. Some Thai media outlets have even suggested that Puchaman herself might take up an executive post to help manage the party. But such speculation has been dismissed by people who are familiar with Puchaman.
It was against this background that the speculation about a unity government began to make the rounds. According to the speculation, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha would bring the revamped Pheu Thai party into his coalition to create a national unity government. In Thai political context, a unity government is a coalition of political parties of all stripes designed as a transitional administration. But before the speculation gained any more traction, It was shot down by Prime Minister Prayut, while Deputy Prime Minister Prawit Wongsuwan dismissed it as a pure rumor. คุณหญิงสุดารัตน์ เกยุราพันธ์ who quit as the chief strategist of เพื่อไทย yesterday described a unity government as something next to impossible. She said it would only be a tactic to buy time but would not solve the political crisis facing the country. Commerce Minister and leader of the Democrat Party, Julin Laksanavisit, was the latest to shoot down the speculation, which still refused to die down after Prime Minister Prayut called a meeting with leaders of the political parties in his coalition government yesterday. Julin affirmed that nothing about a unity government was mentioned during the talk, which preceded the weekly cabinet meeting yesterday. Julin noted that the current political situation does not warrant the idea of unity government. The present parliamentary system is still functioning, she said. He said, meanwhile, the House committee entrusted with studying the 6 motions seeking to amend the constitution met today to lay down the groundwork for its deliberation of the bills. The government's chief whip Virat Ratana said representatives of various groups, including the opposition and those who are in favor and against constitutional amendment, will be invited to give their views. The House committee was set up last week by Parliament after it delayed a vote on the 6 motions. All opposition parties have boycotted the House committee, which has been given 1 month to submit its findings.
And now all eyes are on the work of the House Committee. And today, House Speaker Choo Lik Pai expressed hope that members of the committee will be able to come to a compromise to find a way out. He noted that amending the Constitution is possible only if a substantial number of senators give their support. So I advise him not to take the bull by the horn, Choo Lik Pai said. To amend or not to amend the Constitution has become a major divisive issue for the Thai society. Those in favor of amending the Constitution want to see an end to the power of senators in appointing the Prime Minister. Khao Klai Party, one of the major opposition parties, wants to go as far as amending the Constitution as far as the section dealing with the monarchy is concerned. So the next few weeks, I'm sure that the spotlight will be on the House Committee, which
Yes.
the opposition parties have boycotted, because the opposition parties wanted a vote on the 6 motions seeking amendments to the Constitution to be decided last week. But somehow the government side managed to come with the majority to shoot down the demand for a vote.
So we'll have to see what will be the procedure happening through the parliament in order to push forward the 6 motions. And today, Kun Thepchai, highlight of the world must be on the first presidential debate in the US election. And we could see how it was so heated between Joe Biden and President Trump.
If you look at the headlines of the major news outlets around the world, you can certainly feel the emotions of the debate, right? You'll be seeing the word nasty, awful, chaotic,
Yes.
unwieldy.
Disaster.
So these are words and phrases that major media outlets around the world used to describe what the debate was like.
Yes, and in Thailand, both Republican parties and the Democrat parties must be watching the debate very closely. And especially tonight, Democrats in Thailand have gathered. They have their own special meeting at FCCT. And right now, Kun Chalanthorn Yothasamut is there, and she get to talk to chairperson of the Democrats board and ask them how do they assess the first U.S. presidential debate.
คุณนัทธาคุณเทพชัยค่ะ although the first presidential debates already end at the local time Thailand this morning, but tonight at the Foreign Correspondent Club, the Democrats abroad in Thailand arranged a watch party of the debates again, gather together to watch the debates again. And tonight, I'm here with Paul Wesley, chairpersons of Democrats abroad in Thailand. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening.
All
Thank
right.
you very much for coming today.
Thank you very much. I know that you've already watched the debates this morning, and from Thai people point of view, all we see is the fighting, interjecting, interrupting all the 90 minutes. But from your point of view, how do you see these debates?
I think you're absolutely correct about that. Whether Thai or American, whether in America or here, this was an unprecedented debate. I've never seen such interruptions. I've never seen such apparent anger, and especially by Donald Trump. I thought that Trump handled this very immaturely. He was not interested in debating issues or policies. He made it very personal. He went after Vice President Biden's son. He went after his family. He went after his character. So again, as an American, I was shocked at the level of childish behavior in this debate.
Before I came here, I have a phone interview with chairperson of Republicans in Thailand, and he mentioned that Biden also didn't answer the two main questions. One is related to his son, and the other when asked to denounce the Antifa. But from your point of view, how do you see this claim?
From my point of view, those were very personal attacks by Donald Trump against Joe Biden. To bring up an issue about his son is not a policy issue. It's not about the political issues that are important to the country. It's not about our relationship between America and the rest of the world. It is a very, aiming at the heart of somebody's family, somebody's son. Vice President Biden lost one son in a battle with cancer. His other son has very famously had various drug problems, things like that. That's what Trump was getting at. Trump was attacking a candidate for the president based on his family, his children. So I found that unprecedented and very unbecoming of a president. As far as the other attack you mentioned on Antifa, again, these are political and racial issues in the United States today. Trump would love to paint Biden as a far left liberal radical. In fact, the voting record shows Biden has always been a centrist, a moderate, very much in the middle of the road, and very much where Americans are thinking today.
And lastly, although today debate is not covering the U.S. foreign policy, especially in ASEAN and in Thailand, but from your point of view, how do you expect the policy from the coming president regarding the international relations?
I think, especially for Americans living abroad in Thailand and elsewhere, that's the most important issue. For the past 4 years, Trump has been very erratic. One day he likes China, the next day he doesn't like China. One day he says North Korea will remove all of its nuclear weapons. The next day he hates North Korea. And that's, his presidency has been back and forth. I like trade, I don't like trade. So for Asian partners such as Thailand, such as other governments in other countries, it's very difficult to know what does America stand for. So if anything, a Biden presidency would be very different from a Trump presidency. A Biden presidency would help restore some semblance of permanence to the relationship that the U.S. has with countries such as Thailand. And that's very important today because China is a very large player. Thailand and other countries need the United States to step up as a counterbalance to China's power.
We will end the first short question for this program, and thank you very much for your time.
And I hope that you and your viewers will take the time to watch some of the debates from the United States. Because it's certainly exciting television.
Definitely. ค่ะคุณณัฐฐาคุณเทพชัยคะ so this is some of the view of the chairperson of Democrat abroad in Thailand, and tomorrow the 1st of October there will be the goal of deadline for U.S. embassy for the mail-in ballot for U.S. living in Thailand, but as U.S. system is quite different state by state, so some already cast their vote but some might not. But after I talked to many Americans living in Thailand, they see that this time there will probably highest number of people participating in these elections.
Thank you very much, Kun Chalanthorn. So that's live from the FCCT in Thailand.
right.
We see how Democrats are very active
right.
in following the debate.
And it's quite obvious that the chairperson of the Democrats abroad, Thailand, has a very low opinion on Trump's as how he performed in this morning's debate. And of course, it would be interesting to see how Biden and Trump would talk to express, state their positions on issues of international relations, because these are certainly among the important issues that we expect the two candidates to address.
Yes. So probably it will be coming up in the next presidential debate. And the Republicans overseas are following the debate quite closely as well. And some of them who listen to the debate in Thailand, they think that Biden is very professional, Kun Thepchai. But on the other hand, Trump is a real fighter. So let's take a listen to Mr. Tony Rodigu, chairman of Republicans overseas in Thailand.
Well, I think it just depends on what you side on. I think the appeal of President Trump is he is not a professional politician. We all know President Trump says what he thinks. It's unvarnished, unpolished, but he speaks from the heart. I noticed in the campaign today, the debate today, Biden goes back to the old politician trick. You know, we come together. I'm going to assemble a committee to look into the problem of race in America. I'm going to bring everyone together. It's not true. It's just political gobbledygook. The Biden-Obama administration had 8 years to deal with all the problems that President Trump is dealing with now. Vice President Biden's been in politics for 47 years. And so all these fancy new ideas from Biden, they're just all political word play. He has no ideas. He's an empty old candidate, really, and he looked like it tonight.
So of course, for Republicans who have been very supportive of Donald Trump must be quite pleased with the outcome this morning.
That's right. They thought that Trump did a very good job, very aggressive and very much to the point.
Yes.
And they certainly overlooked all the interruptions that Trump made during the 90 minutes of debate.
Yes.
And he was said to have interrupted Biden 73 times.
That's a lot, given that they have 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But he said that the real strength of Donald Trump is the fighter
That's right.
in the debate.
So if the figures about his interruptions was right, that it means that Trump interrupted Joe Biden once every minute.
Yeah. So Kun Nat Bunna is joining us right now. You have been following the overall of the debate.
Yes.
So what's the comment from foreign news organization as well? What's the overview?
Before we go on to the foreign coverage, first of all, we will give you a highlight of what has been going on during the first debate between President Trump and Joe Biden. And we can see that it's definitely a very heated debate. And this was one of the best moments of the first one.
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is your,
up, man?
Listen, who is your,
Okay, the shut up man was definitely the best word that we have ever heard from Joe Biden. And this moment was enough for everyone to see and understand the whole atmosphere of the first presidential debate. And we can see how fierce and chaotic it was. And the opponents were actually insulting each other, interrupting each other, and as well as bragging about their own records as well.
So it's not exaggerating at all to say that Trump interrupt 73 times.
73 times? I think I didn't manage to count up to 73 times, but maybe it might be a lot more than that.
Yeah, but with the word shut up has become highlight of Joe Biden.
Yes, it was definitely the highlights, and there are also other words from Joe Biden that we didn't even expect that he would say that. For example, there are a couple words such as
Keep yapping, man.
yes, keep yapping though. That was another one as well. But as previously reported, one of the biggest topics for the first presidential debate was the coronavirus pandemic. And Joe Biden said that Trump has panicked and failed to protect the Americans because he was way too concerned about the stocks and the economy.
He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked.
I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives.
And another topic that was debated was the election integrity, which of course it was expected that the mail-in voting would be very high on the agenda. And this was where President Trump repeated his claims that mail-in voting would lead to election fraud. And on the other side of it, Mr. Biden still urged the Americans to vote and also assured them that Trump will be gone if Biden wins the election.
This is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election.
As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months.
Senators know.
So these are one of the highlights of the first presidential debate that we've chosen for you tonight. And I hope you enjoy some of them as well, because some of the speeches here were very heated here, and we can see that Mr. Biden has really stepped up his game in attacking President Trump here.
Yeah.
Well, besides the exchanging of heated arguments, observers believe that the debate today lacks substance. Neither of them really touch on issues of substance that has a lot of meaning to American people.
Yeah, full of interruption and try to show that they are fighting each other.
Yep.
Yes.
So it is definitely very heated, and we can see a lot of interruptions going on. And back to the very first question on how the foreign media has covered the elections, the first presidential debate here, many of the outlets said that this was very heated, very chaotic, and there are tons of interruptions going on during the first debate here. And a couple of days ago, I had a chance to ask one of the experts on presidential debates. His name is Dr. Mitchell McKinney, who's a professor of communications from the University of Missouri. He explained that President Trump is very good at attacking and blaming others, and we see that almost throughout the first presidential debate right here. For example, Mr. Trump said, "I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years." And he even started attacking his son, Hunter, claiming that he was dishonorably discharged from military for cocaine use. So you can see that Mr. Trump has been picking picking on him and attacking Mr. Biden throughout the debate. And these are the main quotes that shows that he was really good at attacking others. Whereas Joe Biden is good at expressing empathy towards the citizens as well as understanding the struggles in life. For example, on COVID-19, he said, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID-19? So that was a very good example of how he used empathy to engage with his supporters here.
And it was quite obvious that Trump was trying very hard to provoke Joe Biden with his accusation, with a lot of some CS falsehood, in order to sort of to make Joe Biden stumble. As we all know that Joe Biden sometimes have problem with the stammering, right? So that's exactly what Trump expected or wanted to see happen. But Joe Biden managed to hold his own, not too badly. So at the end of the day, so he didn't really commit any major blunders.
Yes, he really put things together here, and he managed to really fight against President Trump here, which initially the expert I talked to, Dr. McKinney, initially analyzed that Mr. Biden might look overwhelmed or low in energy if he could not respond aggressively to Donald Trump. But based on what we've seen from the first presidential debate, Mr. Biden really stepped up his game in attacking President Trump, and we've been hearing a lot of mean insults against President Trump during the first debate here, stating that, there's another quote, Mr. Trump is the worst president that America has ever had.
That's quite strong from Joe Biden.
And now let's see how the American people who view the debate, reacted to the result of the debate. According to the poll by CBS News, BBC News, it named Joe Biden winner with 48% backing him, compared to only 41% for Trump. So according to this viewer poll, Joe Biden certainly won the day.
And I think there was an interview on Fox News, I guess it was last night, right, when Fox News revealed this poll, and then Mr. Trump just defended straight away that it's fake.
But it was 100 days before election.
All right.
Yeah, not as recent.
Oh, not too recent, sorry.
Just example of how Chris Wallace.
Despite what we talk about Trump's performance, if you listen to Bill Stapien, who is the manager of managing the campaign for Trump this year, he said President Trump just turned in the greatest debate performance in presidential history, displaying a command of the facts and control of the conversation. So,
right.
Well, but that's from his age.
Yeah, we can expect this kind of a spin doctor to work overtime in the coming days to portray how the candidates performed in the debate. Yeah.
And there's one important thing about the presidential debates, though. The role of such debates is actually the only time where the viewers can get to see the candidates side by side on the same stage, which is also a good opportunity for viewers to compare them, whether it's Mr. Biden's policies or Mr. Trump's policies. But unfortunately, we don't really see that policies yet. But we do get to compare side by side who's the best speaker and who's the best attacker here.
Okay.
And voters tend to think that the debate moment is a useful, credible form of campaign communication compared to campaign ads where you can say whatever you want, because candidates show up without notes or even teleprompters around them. So we really get to see how they actually respond to questions spontaneously, as well as how they would attack their opponent on the spot.
And according to opinion polls in the U.S., 9 out of 10 Americans have already decided whom to vote for. So it would be interesting to find out how much influence the debate and the coming 2 more debates will have on the undecided voters, which is only 1 out of 10.
Right, and we also have to look at the battleground states, because Joe Biden is actually leading in those polls, especially in those swing states, but we might have to see if the polls will change by the time we got to the 3rd November elections.
But some reports have speculated that actually the mark or the point of President Donald Trump has increased after this first debate. So it must be depending on media organization we are talking about. But I think the guy who is having the toughest time must be Chris Wallace.
Okay, the moderator.
Yes, because
Certainly.
we felt like he has tried to interrupt the whole debate because people have been, both Biden and Trump have been, it was more, and ended up like a quarrel, and then Chris Wallace has to interfere and say, stop, just listen to my question.
So in short, this debate would certainly go down history as one of the most heated debates in the presidential election.
And that was only the first debate. We still have the second debate and the third debate next month. So we'll see. Will it still be heated, or they might take the other road where they decided to calm things down.
Moderators will have to be prepared very, very hard for the second debate.
Right.
Okay, so what about Just So You Know and other stories, Kunat?
And just so you know, these are the stories we've also been following.
Thailand recorded 5 new cases of COVID-19 today, who are returnees from South Sudan, Kuwait, and India. All of them are now under state quarantine. The new cases raised the total number of infections to 3,564, with no new recoveries nor fatalities. The cabinet has approved a scheme to make a co-payment of a maximum 3,000 baht per person for 10 million people over a 3-month period. A proposal to add another 1,500 baht to the monthly living allowance of 13.9 million state welfare card holders has also been approved. The World Bank expects Thailand's GDP to contract 8.3% this year, more than the earlier forecast of -5% due to the pandemic and political uncertainty. However, the bank also expects the Thai economy to expand by 4.9% next year, with more than 2 years required for the economy to return to pre-COVID-19 levels. Miss Universe Thailand contestant Cherem Chayathanuch Soratat has been disqualified for this year's pageant due to alleged conflict of interest, where her manager disguised himself as a staff member of the pageant. The organizers revealed during a press conference today that the contestant broke the pageant rules, where personal managers of the contestants are not allowed to be involved with the competition. Yesterday, Cherem said that she would not back out of the pageant, and she also denied that her manager told her about the questions that she would be asked during the contest to help her prepare.
And Kun Thepchai and Kun Nat, right now, if you see all over Bangkok, you would see that there is construction of train station, especially Bang Sue station, which would be the largest train station in Southeast Asia, which is under construction. And it will be the link through between Singapore, Thailand, and Laos, and Malaysia as well. And this station is about to finish, and it will be replacing Hua Lamphong train station in Bangkok.
Thailand is preparing for a new railway hub in Bangkok July next year. The Bang Sue Grand Station, once it opened, Bang Sue Station will be the biggest railway hub in Southeast Asia. The station will be one stop on a long line linking China to Singapore through Laos, Thailand, and Malaysia. The Bang Sue station has been designed as a smart city, which will be the center of all the public transport and all passengers. Thailand is hoping it will turn to be the ASEAN commercial and business hub. The 15 billion baht station is being built on 3.72 square kilometers on land. It has 26 platforms connecting all rail systems in Thailand, from Sky Train, Underground, Airport Rail Link to high-speed train. The 4th floor's building divided into 2 parts, east and west. The station building also includes shopping center, food court, a park, and exhibition hall, so-called transit-oriented development. The Bang Sue station will replace the current Grand Station, Hua Lamphong Station, which just celebrated its 103rd anniversary in June last year. However, Hua Lamphong Station will remain open after Bang Sue Station starts its operation.
So we can use the new one at Bang Sue Station next year. So the question is, what will be happening with Hua Lamphong train station?
That was like an iconic train station in Thailand because of the architecture, and it has been part of the Thai society and Thai culture for so many years.
Yeah.
So yes, that's definitely a big question, what they're going to do with it after.
So full of stories. And that's all from Thai PBS World tonight, and we'll be leaving you with the image of the first US presidential debate. You could see how it is so heated. So right now we have to standing off Kun Thep Chayong, Kun Nat Bunak and me. Goodbye for now.
Thank you for
Thank
watching.
you.